Okay, well, thanks for having me, Keith. And I'm excited to see, I know some of you in the audience and some of you I don't know, and I hope we can change that. So as most of you know, we have had a series of earthquakes in central Idaho, northwest or northeast of Stanley. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some earthquakes that occurred. March 31st was the largest one through April 1st. And we're going to map all of the earthquakes that are magnitude 3 and more. And so, as you know, we've had several more aftershocks over the past couple months in the region. But to keep it simple, we're going to map about 24 earthquakes. So I'm in ArcGIS Pro right now, and I'm in a 2D map. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add some XY point data. So I acquired this data from the United States Geological Survey Earthquake Hazards Program. And when we make our story map, I'll show you the source of that data. So it comes in as a CSV. So we'll go to add data, XY point data. And we will input a table. Go to the folder, browse. And I'm already connected to the folder, Earthquakes 2020. And then here's the CSV file. That's a text file. We can just load it right in. Okay, so the X and Y field.
Lighter weight trellis. And just seeing if we need to hold off on that one until there's until it gets better in stock.
Oh. Yeah, I'm getting some feedback. Does someone have a question, or is everything fine? Okay. So the X field is longitude and the Y field is latitude. So that's appropriate. The coordinate system,
yep.
GCS 1984. So we'll go ahead and bring this table in as point data.
And let's see. And then the flower pot, I think, do you have anything in a similar price point that's...
Okay, so here's the earthquakes that are in the region. And so for context, I'm going to zoom out for you guys. Here's Stanley. There's Redfish Lake, if you're familiar. And I'll zoom out a little more. You can see there's Craters of the Moon, Haley. So we'll go back and zoom into this area. So we have these points. And to bring them into a story map, we need to have them in the Web Mercator Auxiliary Sphere projection. So we'll do that first. We'll go to Analysis, Tools, and I typed in Project already, so I'll hit Enter, find the Project tool. Okay, so it gave a feature class name, and while we're working, if you could please make sure you're muted. I can hear some background noise. Okay, so what we're going to do now is give it a better name. We'll call this Earthquakes and Idaho. And then for the output coordinate system, we'll choose the Web Mercator Auxiliary Sphere. So we have the option to go to projected versus geographic world. And then this one is all the way down almost to the bottom. So we want this projection so we can work in an online environment. And we'll run that. Okay, so now our earthquakes are reprojected. And what we want to do is symbolize them. Okay, so let's go to our Appearance tab in Symbology. And we want to choose graduated symbols so that we can show proportional symbols to represent the magnitude. The field by default is latitude, but we want to choose the MAG magnitude field. Okay, now it shows them as this kind of green color that looks really similar to our topographic map. So we will make it stand out by some dark orange. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let's take a look on our map, and then we can see where we had this really large magnitude earthquake of about 6.5. And what's really cool, if you zoom in to the name right here of this creek, it's called Shake Creek. So that's very apropos. Okay, so we see we have several magnitudes ranging from about 3 to 6.5. Okay, and then if you notice, there's a lot of implied accuracy by these significant digits. So what we'll do is we'll go back to the symbology and click on this tab, Advanced Symbol Options, Format Labels, and change the rounding to 1 decimal place. Okay, that is really nested in the program. It takes a second to find that in the symbology. So now our map is looking really good, and we would like to share our map. So we'll go to the Share tab, and we'll publish a web layer. Now, when we go to publish our web layer, we have to have everything just right. So I know right now there's going to be some errors, and I'm just going to put in map, 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 because I know there's going to be some errors. And let's look if we analyze the layers. It says the layer's data source is not supported topographic. Okay, we want to remove our base layer. So let's just go out of there and remove that base map. And we don't really need our original data in another projection. That's just going to be confusing. So we can right click and remove that one as well. Okay, and another thing that often throws an error is it will say you don't have a template. Layer has no templates. So this is also a little bit nested in the program. So if you go to the Edit tab and go to Features and click on Manage Templates, it was open over here for me, but if you need to find it, it's under Edit, Features, and then click on this little square with an arrow, Manage Templates. All you have to do is click on your legend over here, and then your template is set. So that's a very subtle thing that often causes problems when you're trying to make a web map. So now we'll do Publish Web Layer, so Share Web Layer, Publish Web Layer. And now we'll go give this map a nice name. And you're required to fill in, it doesn't like my tabs, or is it too long? Okay. Well, I think it's fine. So then we'll give a summary. March 31st to April 1st, 2020. We can just call this Earthquakes, Idaho. You can be as creative and as descriptive as you want to be in your summary and your tags. That will be helpful if someone else is reading your map. So our layer type is features, that's correct. And you have some options on who you share with. Everyone, GISU, and my favorite place to save it is in a group. So here's a group that I've already created called Earthquakes Idaho 2020. I usually do that in ArcGIS Online just because that's my workflow. And then you'll analyze. Now we have 0 errors and we're ready to publish. So publishing can take a little bit of time. So now the way I do it is I go into ArcGIS Online and work with my web layers. So this is ArcGIS Online at Idaho State University. Our organization is called GISU. So if you are a member of a different organization, you would have another place to go to look at your content. Okay, so this is our home page. We have some tabs. Let's go to content. And what I just created should be there. So Earthquakes Idaho is right there. You can see I have a lot of other content. So we'll click on this one and we'll open in Map Viewer. And our earthquakes are nicely symbolized. So that's really cool. It maintains your symbology as you move. And then we will say show legend. There's our legend. And then if you click on it, that was pretty fast. Sorry, it's going to take just a second here. So if you click on Earthquakes ID, I did the show legend function and then go to change style. And then you have your legend there. Now we're going to go to save. We need to save again. So it's a lot of saving. Earthquakes. So I'll save this map and then I'll share it. So I'm going to share it with my group. You have a link to this map. So if you're part of my group, I could share my link with you. Okay, so we have our earthquakes nicely symbolized. And I'd like to do one more thing is we want to add our geologic faults to our map. So we have some context, why do we have earthquakes in this region? And so what we can do is go to the add content to map, add layer from file. So in this case, I acquired a Deadwood River geologic map from 2006 that has a zipped shapefile. And what's nice is I can add that very easily, a shapefile that's zipped. So I have that right here. It's in a folder called faults. And when we make our story map, I'll show you where I got this data. So we'll import the layer. And now we have some faults for context. So if you go in this region, this blue line is the Sawtooth fault. This is a really big fault. If you see for content, there's Redfish Lake, here's Stanley, and there's a really giant normal fault along the Sawtooth Range. So that's a pretty famous one. What I also acquired is these other faults from the Dead River Quadrangle are all of these gray faults, and it's really neat. They're perpendicular to the Sawtooth fault. So there's some sort of different tectonic environment going on here. So these were mapped in 2006, so they're known, but we don't quite understand as geologists what exactly is going on here. So it's an exciting time to study this region. So now I'm going to go ahead and save this fault and earthquake map. Earthquakes, faults, I think that will be good. And then I'll share that to my group again. Which one do I want here? There we go. So there's many ways we could do make our maps between Pro and ArcGIS Online and story maps, but I just like to follow the same workflow. So there could be a more efficient way to do this, but my brain really understands working between Pro, ArcGIS Online, and story maps. So we've saved our maps, and now we're ready to make a story map. So let's go to ArcGIS story maps. So storymaps.arcgis.com/stories. I'm already logged in, so I can just go ahead and get started. So they've made the interface really easy, so we can click on create a new story. And that will bring you to your title page. So what I've done ahead of time is I've made a list of text and URLs in a Word doc so I can just copy and paste. And I did that for this webinar, but I thought, oh, that's a really great way so that you can focus on your design in your story map rather than typing and maybe making some errors. And also it makes sure you get your URL just right and have all organized in one place. So I just made a simple Word doc with some text and some URLs. So what we're going to do now is let's take a look at the design tab. So you can see they gave us a nice default. It's a nice gray color with some kind of contour-like background. So we'll go to design and then you can choose your theme. I'll just change it to ridgeline. You can change your accent colors. I keep my font, and then I'm going to upload the Idaho State University logo here. And I just go to my folder where I have put my logo. Okay, so let's go to the title. I'll go to my Word doc so that I can just give it a simple title, and I'm just copying and pasting. And I'll just call the source the USGS. It already put my name as the author. And then on the cover page, you can add an image or a video. You can't add, to my knowledge, your online maps, but we'll do that shortly. So add image, and I'm just going to browse my files. And I just made a JPEG from my map earlier in ArcGIS Pro. I guess it's a PNG file, but pretty similar. Now our text and our earthquakes are kind of overlapping, so we can just do a quick fix. We can just do switch panel placement, and now our text is not in the way of our image. Okay, so what's kind of cool is you can see it says saved right there, so it kind of saves as you go along. And then my ISU logo is nice and small at the top. And now we'll just scroll down. It kind of gives you this little arrow to kind of prompt you. Okay, so it says tell your story. Just click on the plus sign. We can do many things. The first thing I want to do is talk about where I acquired the data from the United States Geological Survey. So I'm just going to, I want to add a URL that's embedded as well as an image. But what I want to do is have them side by side, and I'm kind of a fan of the sidecar. You can have an image on one side and some text, video, or other URLs on the other side. So go to the sidecar. I could do a floating panel, but I'm just going to dock it on the side. And then it says add media. So in this case, I have a JPEG from a website. So I'm going to add media, add image or video, browse my files, and I've already saved this USGS web page. Okay, so that's going to be static. You can't click on it, but if you want your user to go to the website, you can add content over here and embed. So I have the URL right here that I'll copy. I just paste it in. Make sure you select save. And what's nice is now you have a description that's automatic about the website as well as the URL. So that's pretty nice. So now if you wanted to download earthquake data yourself, you could go explore this website. So now I want to continue my story and add another sidecar. We'll do a docked panel. And this time, when we add our media, we're going to add one of our online maps. Okay, so the first one I want to do is my earthquakes Idaho. I have a lot of earthquake maps, you can see. And you can move your map around if you want to show some features. For me, I know a lot of people in Idaho, Redfish Lake and Stanley are good references for central Idaho, so I might have that in my frame. And then I want to show my legend, so go to this cog button in settings and turn on your legend. So it shows up right there. So you have to hover over it. And then we'll select place map. Okay, so we want to put some text onto the left pane. So I'll go get some content that I want to put in. I'll make this my heading. I'm sorry, need to select it there, copy. Then you'll add a heading. Okay, and then if you kind of, you can't see your add block button, but you just kind of hover over it. And then I can add more. I'm going to click out of that for a second. Maybe add more text as a paragraph. And then I want to add a URL again. So that's the same one we added. But it's good to make sure you've referenced everything. Okay, so now we have our earthquakes. And the next thing we want to do is to display our faults. So we'll continue the story. I'm using the sidecar. Okay, and so this time I want to add another map, but now we'll show our faults as well. Add our legend. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is add some text. We'll copy. Now we have earthquakes and faults as a heading. And then we'll add the fault source is this Kilsgard, Stanford, and Lewis map from 2006. We'll do that in a paragraph. And then we'll add the URL so that someone could acquire the data if they were interested. And so that's a website for the Idaho Geological Survey. Okay, so now we can preview our story map. So we have our title slide, our data source, the earthquakes displayed, we can see our legend, and now we have our faults and our earthquakes displayed together with a legend. Okay, so now we want to publish. So we'll click on Edit Story to get to the Publish button. And for me, I would like to make this private to myself, or I can also click on Group Settings and publish the story. So this actually usually goes pretty quick, and that's how you can make a simple story map between ArcGIS Pro online, and that's all we have. I'd be happy to take some questions.